My friends, we are living in a time when the forces of darkness are working harder than ever to deceive, divide, and destroy. The battle is not always waged in the open, but it is taking place right before our eyes, in our homes, in our friendships, and even within our families. The enemy is subtle, often disguising himself in places we least expect, and it is our duty to be vigilant, discerning, and unwavering in our faith. The enemy does not always come in the form of a monstrous figure or an obvious adversary. No, he is far more deceptive than that. He whispers lies through those closest to us. He uses the weak-willed, the bitter, the envious, and the faithless to plant seeds of doubt and destruction in our hearts. He knows that if he can get close enough to our hearts, he can shake our faith. That is why we must be watchful. We must be aware that not every hand extended to us is meant to help us, and not every voice speaking in our ear is meant to guide us toward righteousness. One of the greatest deceptions of the enemy is that he comes through those we trust. He comes in the form of the friend who constantly pulls us into gossip, the one who sows discord among brethren, the one who delights in bringing conflict where there should be peace. He comes in the form of the family member who manipulates, who lies, who twists the truth for selfish gain. He comes in those who are never satisfied, never content, always looking for a way to bring others down. And if we are not careful, we will fall into their traps, believing that because they are close to us, they must mean well. But the truth is, the enemy knows how to use people as tools. And those who are weak in spirit are the easiest for him to use. How do we recognize these forces at work? How do we see the enemy moving in those around us? The first way is by their fruit. Scripture tells us that by their fruits we shall know them. A tree that bears bad fruit is rotten at its core. If someone constantly brings pain, confusion, and destruction into your life, if they thrive on causing conflict, if they lead you away from the path of righteousness instead of toward it, then you must recognize that something unholy is at work. This is not to say that we must cast people aside without love or compassion, but we must not allow ourselves to be deceived by appearances. Just because someone claims to love us does not mean they are working for our good. The second way we see the enemy at work is through the words they speak. Words have power. Words can lift up or they can tear down. Words can encourage or they can destroy. There are those who will speak words of poison into your life, words that weaken your faith, words that fill you with doubt, words that make you question your purpose. These are the voices of the enemy. He knows that if he can control the words spoken into your life, he can control your spirit. Be mindful of the words that surround you. Do they bring light or do they bring darkness? Do they lead you closer to truth or do they pull you further into despair? The third way we recognize the enemy is through the actions of those around us. The enemy thrives in deception, in hypocrisy, in secret sins. There are those who wear the mask of goodness, but live in hidden wickedness. They claim to stand for truth, but live in lies. They claim to seek righteousness, but indulge in darkness. Watch the actions of those around you. Do they practice what they preach? Do they live with integrity? Do they walk in the light? Or do they hide in the shadows? The enemy's workers cannot stand in the light for long. Eventually, their deeds will be revealed. It is a painful thing to recognize the enemy working through those we love. We do not want to believe that our friends, our family, those we have trusted could be vessels for destruction. But we must understand that the enemy has no boundaries. He will use whoever allows themselves to be used. And if we are not careful, if we do not guard our own hearts, we may find ourselves being used as well. What, then, is our response? Do we cut off every person who shows signs of darkness? Do we retreat into isolation, fearing that everyone around us is working against us? No, that is not the answer. The answer is to stand firm in truth, to be strong in faith, to pray for discernment, to walk so closely with the light that darkness cannot deceive us, to confront evil with courage, but also with wisdom. We must not allow ourselves to be led astray, but we must also not fall into the trap of hatred and judgment. We are called to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. There will be moments when you must distance yourself from those who are toxic to your spirit. There will be times when you must stand alone because those around you have chosen a different path. But do not be afraid. The enemy may work through people, but he cannot stand against the power of truth. And if you walk in truth, you will not be overcome. Do not be discouraged if you have been deceived before. Do not lose heart if you have found yourself entangled with those who have brought harm into your life. The enemy's greatest desire is to make you believe that you are trapped, that you cannot escape, that you must accept the darkness around you. But that is a lie. You have the power to break free. You have the strength to walk away from those who mean you harm. You have the authority to speak truth in the face of deception. The battle is real, but so is the victory. Stand firm, be watchful, keep your heart guarded, your mind sharp, and your spirit. And when the enemy comes, even through those closest to you, you will see him for what he is, and he will have no power over you. Discernment of hidden darkness. The enemy often works through friends and family, using deception, manipulation, and negativity to sow doubt and destruction. We must be vigilant in recognizing these influences. Identifying the enemy's signs. The enemy reveals himself through bad fruit, harmful words, and deceptive actions. Those who thrive on gossip, conflict, and dishonesty may be tools of darkness, whether knowingly or unknowingly. Standing firm in truth, while we must be cautious, our response should not be fear or isolation, but spiritual strength, wisdom, and prayer. Walking in truth and discernment protects us from being led astray. There is a war happening all around us, though many do not see it. It is not a war fought with weapons or armies, but one that takes place in the unseen realm. The forces of darkness do not always announce themselves with loud voices or grand displays of evil. No, they are far more cunning, far more subtle, far more dangerous because they move in the shadows, working through people we know, people we love, people we trust. The enemy does not need to use a stranger to attack you when he can use a friend. He does not need to send an outsider when he can work through someone within your own family. And if you are not watchful, if you do not have the discernment to see what is happening, you may fall into the trap, believing that the harm done to you is simply bad luck, misfortune, or coincidence. But it is not. It is by design. The enemy understands that the greatest wounds do not come from those far away, but from those closest to the heart. A betrayal from a stranger does not cut as deep as one from a brother. A lie from an outsider does not shake you as much as one from someone you have trusted. This is why he moves through those nearest to you. He takes hold of those whose hearts are weak, whose spirits are unguarded, and he uses them to bring destruction into your life. Sometimes it is intentional. Other times they do not even realize they are being used. But whether they know it or not does not change the damage they do. The enemy finds his way into friendships that are built on shallow foundations. Some people come into your life not because they are meant to walk with you, but because they are sent as distractions. They seem kind at first, supportive even, but over time you begin to see their true nature. They are the ones who encourage you to compromise your values, who make excuses for sinful behavior, who celebrate your failures instead of your victories. They are the ones who bring temptation wrapped in friendship, who make you question what you once knew was right. These are the voices that tell you, it's not that bad. Everyone else is doing it. You're too strict on yourself. And before you realize it, they have led you away from the path of truth. Then there are those who thrive on strife. They are always surrounded by drama, always speaking about others, always planting seeds of division. They do not build, they tear down. They do not encourage, they criticize. They are quick to point out flaws, but slow to acknowledge their own. They seek control through manipulation, twisting words, playing the victim when confronted. The enemy loves to use these people because they keep you distracted, entangled in conflict, and too drained to focus on the things that truly matter. The family is one of the enemy's favorite battlegrounds. He knows that if he can create division in a home, he can weaken the foundation of faith and love that holds it together. He stirs up resentment between siblings, plants jealousy in the hearts of parents, fuels bitterness in marriages. He uses unresolved wounds, old grudges, and unspoken words to turn family members against one another. He distorts the truth, making small offenses seem like great betrayals, making forgiveness seem impossible. Making tripod, he whispers into the ears of those already wounded, feeding their pain until it turns into hatred. And once that hatred takes root, it spreads, poisoning every relationship it touches. Some people in your life carry a spirit of deception. They are not who they claim to be. They speak one way in public and another in private. They pretend to care, but their hearts are filled with envy. They smile to your face, but secretly desire your downfall. They are the ones who will celebrate your failures in silence and resent your successes openly. You must be able to see beyond the surface, to look at the spirit behind the person. Do they truly bring light into your life, or do they bring confusion? Do they encourage you in righteousness, or do they make you doubt your faith? The most dangerous influence is not always the loudest. Sometimes it is the quiet seed of doubt planted by someone you trust. The enemy does not need to launch an outright attack if he can slowly weaken your faith. A few subtle words, a little push here and there, and before you know it, you begin to question things you never questioned before. You begin to justify things you once stood firmly against. You begin to tolerate things that you once knew were wrong. That is how the enemy works. He does not always come as an open threat, but as a quiet voice that leads you just far enough off course so that you do not even realize you are lost. How do you guard yourself against these hidden forces? How do you recognize when the enemy is moving through someone close to you? You must first open your eyes. You cannot fight an enemy you refuse to acknowledge. You must ask for discernment, for wisdom, for clarity. You must not judge by appearances alone, but by the fruit that a person produces. Do their words bring peace or confusion? Do their actions build up or tear down? Do they lead you toward truth or away from it? A person's true nature will always reveal itself in time. Do not ignore the warning signs. Do not make excuses for toxic behavior simply because it comes from someone you love. Love does not mean allowing yourself to be manipulated, deceived, or led away from the truth. Love means recognizing when someone is being used by darkness and standing firm in the light. Sometimes that means setting boundaries. Sometimes that means walking away. And sometimes that means standing in prayer, asking for transformation, and trusting that the truth will prevail. The enemy wants you to be blind. He wants you to be unaware. He wants you to keep toxic people in your life out of guilt or fear. He wants you to stay in unhealthy relationships because he knows that as long as you do, you will never be able to fully step into the purpose that has been placed upon you. He wants you to be surrounded by negativity, by doubt, by people who drain your spirit instead of filling it. He wants you to stay entangled in conflict so that you are too exhausted to fight the real battle. But you do not have to remain in darkness. You do not have to be deceived. You do not have to allow the enemy to work through those around you unchecked. You have been given the tools to see, the wisdom to understand, and the strength to stand firm. You are not alone in this battle. You are not powerless against the schemes of the enemy. Open your eyes, pay attention, be watchful, and when the enemy comes, whether through a friend, a loved one, or even someone within your own home, you will not be caught off guard. You will see him for what he is, and you will stand in truth. The forces of darkness do not always reveal themselves in grand displays of evil. They do not always come with flashing lights or loud warnings. Instead, they move in silence, creeping into the hearts of those who are unguarded, working through them to spread deception and destruction. The enemy does not always come as an open adversary. Sometimes he hides behind a familiar face, speaking words that seem harmless but are filled with poison. This is why it is so crucial to recognize the signs, to identify the enemy's presence in those around us before they can cause harm. One of the clearest ways to see where darkness is at work is by examining the fruit a person produces in their life. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. This is not just about what people say, but what their actions consistently reveal. Someone may speak words of kindness, but if their actions bring pain, destruction, and confusion, then their true nature is not aligned with the light. Do they stir up trouble wherever they go? Do they cause division among friends and family? Are they always involved in some form of deception? These are the signs of bad fruit. The enemy thrives in confusion, in gossip, in conflict. He works through those who delight in tearing others down rather than building them up. There are those who seem to always be at the center of strife. No matter where they go, chaos follows them. They may not always appear to be the cause, but somehow drama always surrounds them. They whisper in the ears of one person, then turn around and whisper something different to another. They plant doubt, suspicion, and jealousy among people who once stood together in unity. They enjoy watching others argue, they fuel misunderstandings, and they take pleasure in seeing relationships break apart. The enemy uses them to keep people divided, to ensure that peace never takes root. Then there are those whose words are like slow poison. They do not openly attack, but they plant small seeds of doubt and negativity. They may claim to be your friend, but their words do not uplift. Instead, they subtly make you question yourself, your purpose, your faith. They remind you of your past mistakes. They make you feel as though you are never good enough. They highlight your weaknesses while pretending to offer advice. These people do not encourage growth. They keep you stuck in self-doubt. The enemy knows that a person who is constantly questioning themselves is easier to manipulate, easier to control. He uses those around you to make sure you never feel strong enough to break free from the chains that hold you back. Some people wear a mask of goodness, pretending to be righteous, but behind closed doors, they live a different reality. They speak of faith, but their lives show no evidence of it. They claim to stand for truth, but their actions are filled with deceit. They use spiritual language to manipulate others, twisting words to suit their desires. These are the wolves in sheep's clothing. The enemy loves to work through them because they appear trustworthy, making it easier for them to deceive. They are the ones who pretend to be kind but carry hidden agendas. They offer help, but their help always comes with strings attached. They pretend to give, but in reality they are always taking. If you look closely, you will see the contradiction between what they say and what they do. Their words do not match their actions, and eventually their true nature is revealed. The enemy also moves through people who harbor jealousy and resentment. Some will smile in your face, but secretly despise your success. They may pretend to celebrate you, but deep inside, they wish to see you fail. When you struggle, they take pleasure in your downfall. They may not say it outright, but their actions will show it. They are slow to support you when things go well, but quick to point out your failures. They bring up your past at the worst moments. They remind you of your weaknesses when you need encouragement. They disguise their criticism as concern. But the truth is that they do not want to see you rise. The enemy loves to use such people because they can keep you from stepping into your purpose by constantly making you doubt yourself. There are also those who carry a spirit of deception. They are skilled in lies, always twisting the truth, making others question reality. They manipulate situations to benefit themselves, and they never take responsibility for their actions. When confronted, They shift blame onto others, making themselves the victim. They create confusion wherever they go, making it difficult to know what is true and what is false. They deceive without hesitation, making it seem as though they are always innocent, even when the evidence says otherwise. The enemy thrives in deception, and he works through those who refuse to walk in honesty. Some people drain your spirit every time you are around them. They bring negativity, fear, and anxiety into every conversation. After spending time with them, you feel exhausted, burdened, as if your strength has been taken from you. This is not a coincidence. The enemy knows that if he can keep you weary, you will not have the energy to fight the battles that truly matter. He uses people who always bring bad news, who always have something to complain about, who never see the good in anything. These people keep you focused on what is wrong rather than what is right, on what is missing rather than what is present. They steal your peace, and without peace you cannot walk in strength. The enemy will also use those who encourage you to compromise. They may not seem harmful at first, but they push you toward decisions that go against your values. They make excuses for sin. They justify wrong actions. They tell you that certain things are not as serious as they truly are. They convince you to lower your standards, to tolerate things you once knew were wrong. They are always finding ways to lead you off course, little by little, so that you do not notice how far you have strayed until it is too late. The enemy does not always push with force. Sometimes he simply nudges you just enough to get you moving in the wrong direction. Recognizing these signs is crucial because the enemy does not announce his presence. He hides behind the familiar, behind those you least expect. He moves through the words spoken into your life, through the relationships that surround you, through the influences you allow into your heart. If you are not careful, you will find yourself entangled with people who are being used as tools of destruction. This is why discernment is necessary. It is not enough to look at a person's outward appearance or listen to their words. You must examine their fruit, watch their actions, and listen to what your spirit tells you. The enemy's tactics have not changed. He has always worked through deception, manipulation, and division. He has always used those closest to a person to bring them down, knowing that the greatest wounds come from trusted hands. But you do not have to fall into his trap. You do not have to be blind to his schemes. Pay attention to the fruit that people bear. Watch their words, their actions, and the way they make you feel when you are around them. Not everyone who is near you is for you. Not everyone who speaks well of you has good intentions. Some are there to pull you away from your purpose, to keep you bound in doubt and confusion. The enemy is always working, but those who have eyes to see will not be deceived. Truth is the greatest weapon against deception. The enemy operates in darkness, in secrecy, in the subtle twisting of what is good and right. But when truth enters, when light shines upon the schemes of the enemy, his power weakens. The enemy wants nothing more than for you to live in confusion, to doubt what is right, to waver in your faith. He does not need to destroy you outright if he can make you question everything that holds you firm. But standing in truth means refusing to be shaken by lies, refusing to be manipulated by deception, and refusing to be pulled away from the foundation that has been laid for you. The first step in standing firm is knowing what truth is. Many believe they stand in truth, but they have built their foundation on personal opinions, on emotions, on what the world says, rather than what is unchanging. Truth does not shift with time. It does not change based on feelings. It is solid, unwavering, and eternal. The enemy will try to convince you otherwise, whispering that truth is whatever you make it, that what is right and wrong depends on circumstances. He will use those around you to reinforce this deception, leading you to compromise in small ways until you no longer recognize what is true. But truth does not bend to convenience. It does not soften to fit personal desires. It stands, whether people accept it or not. Standing firm in truth requires discernment. Not every voice that speaks into your life is meant to guide you. Some come with sweet words, with encouragement that seems harmless, but their purpose is to lead you astray. Some will tell you that compromise is necessary, that certain things are no longer relevant, that holding to what is right makes you intolerant or rigid. These voices do not come as enemies, but as friends, as loved ones, as those who seem to care. But true discernment looks beyond words and into the spirit behind them. It asks, does this align with what is true? Does this bring life, or does it lead to destruction? The enemy can disguise himself in kindness, in wisdom that seems logical, but the spirit behind the words will always reveal the truth. The enemy wants you to be afraid of standing firm. He wants you to feel isolated, to believe that if you hold on to truth, you will be left alone. He will use those closest to you to pressure you into conforming, to make you feel as though your convictions are a burden rather than a gift. He will try to convince you that standing alone is too difficult, that it is easier to go along with what everyone else is doing. He wants you to fear rejection, to feel the weight of disapproval so strongly that you would rather stay silent than speak. But truth is not determined by the number of people who accept it. Even if you must stand alone, even if every friend turns away, even if family refuses to understand, truth remains. And when you stand in truth, you are never truly alone. There is power in refusing to waver. The enemy seeks to wear you down, to make you tired, to keep you entangled in distractions, so that you do not have the strength to resist. He knows that persistence is difficult, that many will stand for a moment but grow weary over time. That is why so many begin their journey with conviction but lose their way as pressures increase. But standing firm means endurance. It means holding fast, even when the storms rage, even when the voices against you grow louder. It means refusing to bend to pressure, refusing to allow discouragement to take root, refusing to let fear dictate decisions. The enemy uses deception, but he also uses discouragement. He will whisper that you are not strong enough, that you are not wise enough, that you are too flawed to stand firm. He will bring up past failures, reminding you of every mistake, every weakness, every moment of doubt. He will use people around you to reinforce these lies, speaking words that make you question your worth. But standing firm means refusing to listen to these voices. It means recognizing that the enemy's accusations are not truth. It means knowing that past failures do not define you, that mistakes do not determine your future, that your strength does not come from yourself but from truth itself. The enemy wants you to fight the wrong battles. He will bring conflict into your life, making you feel as though you must defend yourself against personal attacks, against those who misunderstand you, against those who spread lies. He will try to pull you into endless debates, into arguments that drain your energy, into conflicts that serve no purpose. He knows that if he can keep you fighting the wrong battles, you will be too distracted to focus on what truly matters. But standing firm in truth means knowing which battles are worth fighting. It means understanding that not every attack requires a response, that not every word spoken against you needs to be defended. It means standing in confidence, knowing that truth does not need to be proven, it simply is. Standing firm requires surrounding yourself with those who also walk in truth. The enemy seeks to isolate, to separate, to make you feel as though you are the only one who sees clearly. He wants you to feel alone in your convictions, to believe that no one else understands. But there are always those who stand for what is right, those who refuse to compromise, those who hold firm no matter the cost. Seeking out these people, standing with them, encouraging one another is a weapon against the enemy's schemes. There will always be pressure to conform. The world will always push against truth, seeking to redefine it, to soften it, to mold it into something more acceptable. The enemy will always try to wear you down, to make you question, to make you tired. He will always use those around you to try to pull you away. But standing firm means choosing not to move, choosing to remain grounded in what is right, choosing to reject the lies that surround you. It means walking in clarity, in conviction, in the assurance that no matter what comes, truth will always remain. The battle between truth and deception is not one fought in distant lands or among strangers. It happens in our homes, in our friendships, in the very relationships we hold dear. The enemy does not always come as an outsider, but often works through those closest to us, using manipulation, deception, and division to weaken our faith, steal our peace, and lead us away from what is right. Recognizing the signs of darkness in those around us is not about judgment or condemnation, but about protecting our spirit, guarding our heart, and ensuring that we do not become entangled in the schemes that seek to destroy us. Evil does not always announce itself. Sometimes it comes in the form of a whisper, a smile, or a helping hand with hidden motives. It works through words that drain our confidence, through actions that breed confusion, through people who seek to control rather than uplift. It is found in those who spread division, who take pleasure in our struggles, who encourage compromise and cloud our discernment. It moves through deception, through flattery, through relationships that keep us tied to pain instead of leading us to freedom. But there is hope. There is power in truth, and when we stand firm in it, darkness cannot prevail. When we open our eyes to what is happening around us, when we recognize the tactics of the enemy, we take away his ability to deceive. We must not be afraid to separate ourselves from those who do not bear good fruit, from those who bring destruction rather than life. We must be willing to stand alone if necessary, knowing that truth does not require the approval of others. The enemy thrives in confusion, but those who walk in discernment will not be deceived. The enemy seeks to make us weary, but those who stand in truth will not be shaken. The enemy tries to isolate, but those who seek righteousness will always find others who walk the same path. Let us not be blind to the dangers that exist even among those we love. Let us open our eyes, guard our hearts, and stand unwavering in truth. Because in the end, deception will fade, lies will crumble, and only truth will remain. And when all is said and done, let it be known that we did not fall, we did not waver, and we did not bow to the darkness, because we stood in truth.